Teachers are regarded as the most resourceful people in a nation. From Homa Bay County, Clinton OKWIRI, with his passion for education and to study, traversed counties to join Gretsa University in his quest for education to study education arts. He joins us today on our show, The Tomorrow Leader, to share his insights as a student leader, former student leader, and his perspective on leadership. Clinton OKWIRI, welcome to our show today.
Thank you.
I'm honored to host you.
A pleasure is all mine. This seat looks comfortable.
Briefly, before I go more into details, I want to understand as a person and the viewers watching us, who is Clinton OKWIRI?
Well, Clinton OKWIRI, actually OKWIRI is my nickname. Majority doesn't know. It is my dad's name. But Clinton OKWIRI is a young, focused citizen of this particular nation. Born and brought up in the highlands of Mfangano, found in Homa Bay County, specifically in OKWIRI village. I did my education at the primary level in a public school known as OKWIRI Primary School. Later on proceeded to Oriwa Boys High School, where I learned for 4 years. And afterwards, I joined Gretsa University in 2016 to pursue education arts, where my interests are ventured upon history and Swahili. So that is Clinton OKWIRI, a very still young and energetic citizen of this particular nation.
Oh, thank you so much. A teacher of history and Kiswahili. Kwa hivyo tukisema tunongozane katika lugha ya Kiswahili tutapelekana.
Itakuwa raha kwangu sana.
Siku nyingine.
Asante.
Now to move on. You've been a student leader, Gretsa University 2017-2018. What was the passion that moved you to vying for that seat, to be the student leader at Gretsa University? What drove you?
Thank you very much for that. I developed a passion into leadership at a very tender, let me say. I was still a junior member of the institution. That was 2016 when we joined. So as new students, when you come to the university, we are always eager to know what is happening. I had a lot of interest not only in politics, but in other aspects like co-curricular activities and religious affairs. So later on, when the election came for another year, that was 2017, I was actually proposed by some of the then students student leaders who were living. His name is Dan Lake Mock. He was the then finance minister. He approached me and told me, Clinton, I see some potentiality in you, and I think you are good to go for this particular post, and you'll be a rock upon which the majority of these students will be able to realize a lot of things. And therefore, I joined politics literally with the passion to serve and to ensure that the plight of a student is understood, and we are just at par, rather comfortable in our academic quest.
Oh, wow. So you wanted to push student affairs issues. That's what made you gain interest in becoming a student leader at Gretsa University.
That is it.
Now, what did you learn as a student leader? How did it impact to your social, economic, religious life as a person? Did the university politics make you or better or worse or?
Well, the university politics has played a very great role to me personally, and it is something I can't take for granted. Having been into leadership, a lot of things have changed, and some of them are still actually changing. They say life is a learning process. There are a lot of things that I have learned that I never knew. There are a lot of people that I have known that I never knew. And there are a lot of places I've gone that I had never gone. So literally, it has impacted in my life. You asked me about whether it has done so spiritually as well. yes, the spirit of politics lives within me, and it is something that I'm still looking forward towards. And having been a student leader in the previous years, I think the things that I have known in my personal life, especially soft skills, it makes you know how to handle life as it comes. You know, leadership places you in a position whereby you have to make decisions. Those decisions, sometimes you have to even make to yourself, and the decisions that you make to yourself may result into something else that will come tomorrow. Problem solving, and also a lot of things, knowing people, changing my networks into networks. It is something that has been great, and I really appreciate. Student leadership has been a great icon in my personal life.
In your personal life?
Yes.
Has Gretsa University given you the platform to be who you want to be?
Well, Gretsa University offers platforms actually to us, or rather to its students, to be what they desire to be. You realize your potentials through a lot of things, including the student politics itself. There are other co-curricular activities through clubs and societies that we have with the universities. They give us chance in order to realize our skills and to better them as well. So Gretsa University, as per where I stand and as per where I look it, I think it has done its best to promote the welfare, or rather the well-being of any talented young student around.
Okay, that is wonderful. Now, being a Swahili teacher, you have said you are to finish school in this during this period, but the pandemic has messed things up. What is your advocacy in terms of Swahili language speaking in this country? We do understand that it's our one of the major national languages, but it's not given proficiency in schools and time. What is your advocacy?
Wow, that is great. Utaniruhusu nikuambie kwamba Kiswahili ni lugha ya Afrika. Any other language that we see could be foreign to us. But Kiswahili is one of the languages that we possess and we own as Africans. And I think the position of Kiswahili as we speak today in Africa, it has made some steps. And when you asked me that particular question, I feel like speaking in Kiswahili, but there is...
There's no problem.
Thank you very much. Asili na chumbuko la Kiswahili ni Afrika. Na kwa kweli Kiswahili imepiga hatua. Ila katika nchi yetu ya Kenya, sisemi kwamba tumeweza kufika pale ambapo tunafaa kufika. Ila bado tunafaa kupiga hatua zaidi, ili hasa katika matumizi ya kila siku. Nitajibu swala hilo nikirejelea jambo au swala la siasa. Utapata kwamba wanasiasa wengi tunatumia Kiswahili katika nyadhifa mbalimbali za siasa. Na katika matumizi yetu ya kila siku, huenda ukawa tuzingatii kanuni na sheria za Kiswahili. Kwa hivyo ni lugha ambayo watu wengi wameichukulia kwamba lugha ya mazoea, lugha ambayo tumezoea kuzungumza na wanasiasa na pala popote bila kuzingatia kanuni na sheria za Kiswahili. Na kwa hivyo we shall make a great step in Kiswahili, and we've made as a country as well, the moment the common people will learn to maintain the ethics of Kiswahili as a language.
I hope one day I'll see you in Parliament pushing for 4 days Kiswahili speaking in schools, compared to these days when they're told that you speak 4 days English, 1 day Kiswahili, because it's our major national language.
Actually, that is something that we actually don't even need to take to Parliament to be put into place. You know, the institutions, rather the schools at their own levels, they have got the ability to pronounce that yes, we can speak Kiswahili for 4 days or for 3 days or so. But the challenge comes that majority of the subjects are taught using English. So I think when we get to that particular point where, God willing, we get into Parliament and we are given opportunity, we would be able to change a lot of subjects, including mathematics and physics, to be taught in Kiswahili, so that Kiswahili can be one of our own.
Wonderful. Now, What is your perspective on, as a young youth leader? You have led, you have had masses behind you as students. What is the perspective about your youth leadership in our country today?
Well, I love the statements of that have been the statements of Professor. He always puts them that a country whose young people are in a constant state of slumber shall never realize its potential. And therefore, when you ask me the state of youth, or rather young people in Kenya as a country, at times I feel like we should have a national dialogue with all the youth in this particular country to realize our potentials. A youth is someone who is very energetic, and that energy, if channeled into the right thing, our country, or rather our nation, can flourish into something that has never been seen. Having said that, allow me to say that the Kenyan youths are trying. We are trying our best to be where we expect, rather to see the dreams of our nation come true. And this country is not full without youths. This country is not going to be complete without the efforts of young people. We participate in both the social, political, cultural, cutting across all sectors of our livelihood. And therefore, I think youthful energy, it is something that if the government of Kenya can embrace it with a lot of seriousness, and I mean seriousness, with a lot of seriousness, then they can see this country flourish into a nation that is beyond what they are dreaming for.
You have talked about seriousness, and now that brings me to my next question. Are you serious? Because mostly we are accused that during election, we're the one being used in the bad way. We don't support our own rather than we're the one being used to abuse our fellow youths. We're the one being used to disrupt rallies. We're the one being used to do the bad things. So are we trying, or are we being used in the wrong way?
Wonderful. The issue of being used is a debatable issue that is out there. But I think in regard to what you've tried to inquire, when it comes to participation of the youth, just like I said, we have got a lot of energy. And anything that a youth finds to do, they may do it to some greater, with a great impact. When they overdo it, it may become too much. But I think I don't belong to the school of thought that we could say that youths are being used. But I would rather say that when serious matters are brought on board, a youth has got a particular feeling, an intrusive, something intrusive between them, inside them, that makes them use a lot of energy to go for whatever they want in life. When it comes to matters of politics and whatever, that is their way of participation. And when this energy is overwhelmed into the ground, I think a lot of people see a lot of messes. You'll see a lot of riots where the youths are, and it is within their political rights to fight for what is actually for them. Because if they don't fight for it, it will never come, or it may never come. I think the issue of being used is here. The only challenge, the biggest challenge that we have is we hardly become beneficiaries of the things we fight for. We fight for them, but as they say, the benefits at times goes to other older generations, for lack of better words.
And now that begs me to ask, as a young youth leader who have had masses behind you, I want to know what is now your contribution to the national leadership, both politically, socially, religiously. You're a former. So how are you contributing to the national youth leadership or politics per se?
Wonderful. One of the greatest things that I think I have enjoyed doing as a student leader, and I still continue doing, is not only letting people know their rights through maybe telling them what is expected of them, but then I've always loved to champion for letting people know their responsibilities. When we live in a country that us got responsible people, responsible young people and the whole people as well, we will always find that things are done the right way to a greater percentage. Of course, we don't expect everyone to behave the same way. But then my passion has always been to champion, or rather, to let the youths, or rather the young people of this particular nation, know or be aware of their responsibilities. Because you move to any part of this nation and you will hear a young person tell you, it is my right, it is my right. It is not good to know you are right as a young person and even to fight for it, but on the same quest, it is right to know your responsibility as a young citizen of this nation. Because when we know our responsibilities, we will not step into other people's rights and freedoms.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, I also want to know, and maybe our viewers will want to know, apart from politics, leadership, what does OKWIRI Clinton do? Well,
apart from politics, actually, I don't politicize a lot, but you know, politics is a good thing. I do a lot of things in spiritual affairs. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, and I really love God. Actually, I was picked up from nowhere into leadership by people who saw potentialities in me, and they said, "Young man, we've seen you are capable of doing something," and they empowered me to be able to be where I am. So I also do a lot of religious affairs. I am a singer. I sing. I've been a chorister since childhood. In our church, there is a way you can lead songs for the Seventh-day Adventist as people join. So I sing. I've also served as a Seventh-day Adventist church elder at the university level, where we opened up. Actually, that was the beginning of everything. When I went to Gretsa, there was no Seventh-day Adventist. Mm-hmm. So having been brought up in the religious sphere of life, we felt the need of putting up a religious, Seventh-day Adventist within Gretsa. And it is something that I do with passion. I love it. I'm also a drummer. I do drama. This year, I gave a trial to drama, but unfortunately, I was actually acting. But unfortunately, the pandemic interfered with our national dream to see ourselves progress. I'm also a talented journalist. I have been a commentator of football from primary up to campus level. So it is a talent that I've grown up with, and there are things that I still do. I can MC a wedding, I can MC a function, and I can do a lot of things besides being a politician.
So we can say very well that you're outgoing and you love what you do.
I love what I do. I do it with all my might for the betterment of our society, or rather our community.
We now want to go deep into national politics as a youth leader. What is his perspective on the national politics and where does he eye to be? So, OKWIRI, young parliamentarians, young youths in leadership, what is your perspective on the national politics with the youths?
Oh, wonderful. The Kenyan politics, or rather the national politics, at times it becomes interesting. But I have always had a feeling that, the original initiators of politics itself, from whom we copy a lot of things, are the Greek. And the Greek, there is a professor known as Aristotle, he's a philosopher. Aristotle puts the meaning of politics into its real context. And we may always think as young people, or rather as a nation, that we know politics. But at times, I think personally we deviate from what politics is, and we do a lot of things that are contrary to the real meaning of politics. As a nation, we have made a great, some small, I can say small, we've made some small advancements, but we are still far from what my personal expectations of a real democratic nation should be. Having said that, I think the national politics at times becomes interesting. You know, we live in a nation that is diverse. with the different and conflicting interests. They are different and there are as well conflicting interests. So when we live in such kind of a state, there are two issues that we can have. We either go to war and we let the winner takes everything, or rather controls the resources. If we don't go to war, we politics. We do politics. It is called politicking. So anytime we find ourselves into war, we should always know that we deviate from the original definition of what politics is. And in the previous years, we've seen our country going into some war. Even currently, I can tell you, we still have got war. War is war, whether it is psychological or what. We've seen a country that is suffering from a cancer known as corruption. We live in a country whereby at times we only think politics when it is elections. We live in a country whereby people tend to believe that politicians are thieves. I always say no. Election is election, not politics. When a politician, yes, politicians may steal, but when a politician steals, it is not doing politics. It is being called a thief. And therefore, there are things that we need to put right in our national politics as we move forward.
What is the position of the youth?
The position of the youth in the national politics is very, very key, and it is something we cannot downlook, or rather we cannot underestimate. Youths must come out, and they must come out in large numbers, not only to help the elderly politic, but also to show their potentials, that they can do something. It is something that at times I look at and I say, if you look at our parliament that is so diverse, we have got some young politicians, people like Babu Owino, Mheshimiwa Babu Owino, Sakaja, Honorable Sakaja as well. We have got some other young who have even formed the Young Parliamentarian Association, in which they try to bring together the young people of this particular nation. But you know, it is a war that is here or there. People always say, how old is an old person? And therefore, everyone wants to maintain their position in the youthful agenda. As young people, we have to come out and go for positions in the national affairs so that we show this particular nation that we are responsible. Because if it is not for us, without us, then it is going to be messy.
Thank you. Tell me, who are your mentors? Who have made you who you are? Because I'm sure that people who you've been looking up to, you've been talking to, they've been advising you. How have they impacted to your life today, to date?
Thank you. I look up to a lot of people. Just like I told you, Clinton is just this particular vessel that you see. But then I have always been picked by people who see a lot of potentials in me, and they say, Clinton, I think you have got something that you can do for this particular great nation. And I look up to such kind of people, both the people that I interact with in my daily life, and even the people that I follow in the social media. But I have lived to cherish the leadership, or rather the great aspirations of His Excellency, former President of the United States of America, Barack Hussein Obama, who went to a strange land, having come from Africa, to show the world that there is nothing that is impossible. In fact, I think Barack Obama proved that impossibility is only found in quote-unquote a fool's dictionary. I look up to him. I've also enjoyed looking the politics, or rather the livelihood of my former senator, the late, may God rest his soul in peace, Senator Kajwang. Is someone that I have lived to enjoy his form of leadership, how he comes out and does his own things. Having said that, I also have people that I literally look up to, friends, colleagues that have really stood up to see me whom I am today. It can't go without mentioning a nominated member of County Assembly of Homa Bay, Mheshimiwa Ruth Aweno, from whom I have learned a lot of things. And she might not know that I'm learning such kinds. You know, sometimes the people who mentor you may not know that you are looking up to them. So she's a young politician, or rather a woman who picked me from nowhere, and I have emulated a lot of things from her, and even some from the books that at times she puts in her library.
Oh, you have a lot of people you look up to, and I'm sure they've made you who you are today. Now, where do we see OKWIRI 10 years from now?
Wow, you've asked me an interesting question. When I joined the university, and my first time to speak to a professor, his name was Professor Gretsa. That is in our first lectures that we attended, that is the question that he asked. Well, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Yes. And you know, we thought then we said, is Professor really serious? Which kind of question is this? But then we live with the great aspirations, we live with great visions that we want to champion in a livelihood. And in the next 10 years, I'm very focused. Come 2022, I'm looking forward to being one of the aspirants in Homa Bay County. And it is something that I am working day in, day out towards for the county government, for us to actually try and have an oversight over the management of county funds that devolution has come up with. After that, I am looking forward into being a member of Senate. I love Senate because at the Senate level, oversight authority still comes on board. I know the members of parliament does a lot of lawmaking and all that, which is a good thing. A country that is ruled by law must prosper. But personally, I'm looking forward into being at the Senate House in the next, rather, in the election that shall be held 2027.
Thank you so much. OKWIRI is so insightful in becoming one of the MCAs come 2022 in Homa Bay County. His love for, should I call it, to have an oversight of something is what drives him to who he is today. As we wind up, I wanted to look into that camera and tell the people who are looking upon you, who might be inspired by you, what the youths out there, what do you advise them?
Well, I have got always a very simple advice to my fellow youths, or rather anyone who may be having dreams in whatever thing that you do. Give life your best, and when you give life your best, leave the rest for God, because no human is limited.
OKWIRI ametufungia na kusema kwamba hakuna binadamu ambaye hana uwezo, sio? Hilo ndilo jambo lake la mwisho, na tunapomalizia ni kwamba mwalimu ni chombo muhimu katika jamii yetu. Walimu wanatuelekeza, walimu wanatufanya tulivyo sasa hivi, na hilo ndilo ndugu yetu hapa OKWIRI amejaribu kunena kwa wale wanaotutazama. Tumeshukuru sana. We thank you for watching our show. We look forward to giving you more leaders, more youthful leaders who have aspiration, who are inspired by many, and who want to make change in our Republic of Kenya and the world at large. This is your Tomorrow Leader show, and I am your host, Stephen Opanda. Make sure you like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Sauti Kweli Media. See you next time.